Good morning. When I was in second grade, my best friends and I were obsessed with the new trend of making rainbow loom bracelets and duct tape purses. And after being inspired by our favorite YouTubers, we decided to start our own business, selling our products at school. Every day, we collected orders at recess, marketing our one-of-a-kind rainbow loom designs. We called ourselves Crafty Creations Co., making a small fortune of $12 before our dreams of a duct tape business empire were shattered by the teacher who uncovered our scheme by the swings. Together with our loyal customers, we started a petition to allow students to pursue their passions for business at recess and made signs supporting our cause. Even though our campaign was unsuccessful, this was one of my first experiences leading my peers, running my own backyard business and talking to students about how they felt about the school's rules. Regardless of what our experiences may have been like as a young student, we have all demonstrated the qualities of a leader, whether we know it or not. What do you think of when you think about student leadership? Most people would think of class presidents and student councils. In most schools, elected students are allowed to help organize school events, fundraisers, and volunteer activities. In most circumstances, the role of the student is clearly defined, with each person fulfilling a specific purpose. Although this can help to develop leaders, it often limits students by confining them to already defined roles, rather than allowing them to step in where they're needed, or where they can make the most impact. Throughout high school, I have held many leadership positions in student governments and in other organizations. And through this, I have seen that I've often been assigned a role that I simply fulfilled, rather than doing what I thought would be best for my schools. As a result of this, I had often been called a student leader. But because of what I had seen the impacts of other people my age have around the world, I could never see myself as being deserving of such a title. Gen Z is now in Congress, leading movements and becoming powerful activists. But I raised $1,000 for prom. Young people were often taught to believe that leadership is something that is above us, something that we aspire to achieve. Because of this, even if I had raised $100,000 for prom, I still wouldn't have considered myself a leader. But we probably would have had a very nice prom. Leadership can be found in many daily circumstances, and this is what these student roles often seem to limit. Even if you impact one person, or if you impact 1 million people, we are all capable of making this change. We are all able to hold these positions. Student leadership should be about empowering students to be able to take on these roles so that they can continue to make these powerful changes. Effective leadership helps to build those skills that students find necessary in their professional and academic settings, such as effective communication, critical thinking, problem solving, and other skills. Students need to be able to see that they are able to have an impact in any way, shape, or form. Schools are able to help cultivate the environments that help students be able to see this. Schools and teachers can often take on the role of inspiring students to see that leadership is more than just a position, and it's also about empathy. A student leader is not always someone who starts a revolution, but someone who is able to empathize with the people around them. As we continue to look at this, students need to develop more positions within their schools where they can be able to see these everyday acts. Leadership can be seen when someone resolves a conflict between their classmates. You can see it when someone raises their hand to ask that question that everyone else is too afraid to. And you can see it when they want to play a game at recess and convince all of their friends to join in. If we redefine leadership under these terms, then almost anyone can be a leader, regardless of who they might be. These positions within schools can help students to see that they too can become leaders in whatever way they choose. As we continue to develop these methods, we can see that leadership is also empathy and can be seen throughout classrooms in many, many different environments. In order to create such opportunities with other students in my school district, I helped to form the organization CCISD Students for Safety, a group that was dedicated at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure that the student voice was represented in the plans to reopen schools both in person and online. This organization was formed after many students who were in elected positions had felt unsatisfied with the policies that were being enforced, as despite being considered student leaders, they had not been consulted. As we continued this program, we were able to work with many members of administration in order to bring changes that would help students feel that they were in control of their educations during such an unprecedented time. Through the use of effective social media campaigning, we were able to gain attention to our cause and make sure that these changes were being made. Students were able to work on things such as designing posters to be distributed around schools to simulate contact tracing, and also creating step-by-step videos that would help students see new procedures such as contact tracing. We were even able to work with organizations from across our community, such as NASA's Johnson Space Center, to help assemble and distribute face shields to students who may not have been able to attend schools without them. Since then, we have expanded our organization to include representatives from each of the high schools in our district and become CCISD Student Advocates, a student-led advocacy group that works with our superintendent and school board to ensure that the student voices are being represented. Today, as a founding member and director of this organization, I continue to work with students to help and make sure that each and every one of the 40,000 students that we represent, our voices are being heard across our district. We have worked on issues such as advocating for communication between administration and students, accessibility of free and reduced lunch programs, safety and equity in schools, and revamping our schools' GPA and class rank systems, all for the betterment of students in schools. Through this, we have become true student leaders, representing ourselves and our schools around our community. Currently, we are working to develop a representation plan to allow each and every student to be able to serve in any role that they desire. Previous roles in our district, such as health and safety councils, may have utilized a lottery system, selecting students who may not have been dedicated for the role. And as a result, our representation plan includes making these positions more accessible so that any student who is interested in applying could do so. Even if a student did not serve in such a role, by communicating their concerns to just one student that did, they too would be able to make an impact as a leader. As we continue to implement these effective methods of representation within our school district, we have also presented our plans to other representatives from across our state at the Texas Association of School Boards Conference, and been recognized by Character.org and received the Texas School Safety Spotlight Award. We hope to continue to expand our program to allow more students to be exposed to these leadership opportunities that have been so beneficial to us all. Throughout my experiences with this organization, I have seen that the need for student representation extends beyond our schools to much larger scale problems. One example of this is March for Our Lives, a student-led organization that has worked with legislators to help continue to make positive change. These students formed this organization after a tragedy took place at their school and were able to organize the single largest protest against gun violence in history. Other movements, such as the fight against climate change and racial and social injustices, have all included a significant youth presence. As we can see, majority of the advocacy that is done by young people is often sparked by tragedies, catastrophes, and times of difficulty. We need to inspire young people to be able to take on these leadership roles before they are forced to be. We live in a world where anyone, regardless of their age, can truly do anything. Young people are taking on important leadership roles in all parts of society. As we go through school and enter into the world, we are all becoming leaders, regardless of whether we serve in any official positions. This is cultivated by the environments that we are exposed to from a young age, especially within our schools. Student representation is where the recess revolutionaries can become class presidents and student council members, so they can go on to one day become teachers, doctors, business owners, innovators, and change makers. Effective methods of representation within our schools can help give students the tools they need to succeed and become positive, contributing members of society. It provides the background for a life of empathy, servant leadership, and dedication to improving the quality of life of others, as is necessary for addressing the problems that our world is facing and continues to face as our generation grows into world leaders. Whether we go on to affect 1 person or 1 million people, we are all making change. As we look at leadership with the lens of empathy and see it as more than a title, it is important to understand that we don't all have to go out and change the world, but each and every person needs to know that they have the power to, because leaders are who we are and who we have the power to become. Thank you.